When you woke up this morning, you didn't just step into another ordinary day, you stepped into a divine appointment. There are moments in life when heaven leans in, when the atmosphere shifts, when something sacred, something supernatural begins to stir around you. And today is one of those moments. Because when God speaks, everything that has been resisting you begins to crumble. When God commands, every barrier, every enemy, every silent battle you've been carrying begins to lose its strength. And right now, you're about to enter a realm where the word of God becomes your weapon, your shield, your breakthrough. For the next 3 days, as you read this psalm, you're not just reading words, you are activating divine confusion in the camps of your enemies, dismantling every assignment formed against you, and stepping into a victory that heaven already wrote in your name. So prepare your spirit, because what God is about to do for you will not be subtle. It will be undeniable, unstoppable, and unforgettable. When God gives an instruction, it is never random, never casual, never insignificant. It is a divine strategy wrapped in simplicity, a supernatural blueprint disguised as an ordinary action. And as you prepare to read this psalm for 3 days, you must understand that you are stepping into a prophetic transaction where heaven responds to obedience with intervention, where God takes what is small in your hands and produces something mighty in your life, where the simple act of reading becomes the activation of spiritual authority. For years, you have fought battles that drained you, battles that stretched you, battles that made you question your strength, your purpose, your progress, and even your destiny. You have carried burdens that were never meant to be yours, worries that weighed you down, fears that whispered in the night, opposition that felt relentless, and adversaries whose intentions were masked behind false smiles and hidden motives. You have walked through seasons where the enemy studied your patterns, targeted your weaknesses, and tried to infiltrate the very places you were supposed to be safe. But God has never been blind to the warfare against your life. He has been watching every move, every attack, every whisper, every plot devised in the shadows. And now he is stepping in with a command that will dismantle the assignments formed against you. This is not just reading. This is warfare disguised as worship, intercession disguised as meditation, victory disguised as obedience. When you read this psalm, you are lifting your spirit above the reach of your enemies, elevating your mind above the influence of their plans, positioning your life beneath the covering of divine protection. For 3 days, heaven will stand at attention as you speak each verse, and the words you release will collide with the strategies of your enemies, disrupting their communication, scattering their unity, breaking their agreement, frustrating their intentions. Because when God sends confusion, it is not random disorder, it is divine interference. It is the unraveling of every scheme designed to hinder you, the collapsing of every plan that opposes your purpose, the turning of every weapon formed against you back toward those who forged it. And as you read, you will not feel the shift immediately, but the shift will begin. It will start beneath the surface, in the places you cannot see, in the conversations you are not aware of, in the meetings you were not invited to, in the thoughts of people who underestimated you. Doors that were held shut will begin to loosen. Chains placed on your progress will weaken. Energy sent against you will return to their senders. People who plotted against you will turn against each other, because the presence of God will disrupt the atmosphere surrounding your name. You are entering a moment where what the enemy meant for destruction will become the stage for your elevation, where every trap becomes evidence, every attack becomes proof, every enemy becomes a footstool. And it will not be because you fought with force, but because you move with faith. This psalm becomes a spiritual fortress around you, a shield that absorbs what was meant to harm you, a fire that surrounds your destiny. For 3 days, you are partnering with heaven, aligning your voice with divine authority, activating angelic assistance, and stepping into a realm where nothing planned against you can stand. And the most profound part of this moment is that God is not asking you to fight. He is asking you to obey. He is not asking you to strive. He is asking you to trust. He is not asking you to retaliate. He is asking you to position yourself, because in these 3 days, God is the one who will fight. God is the one who will confuse. God is the one who will scatter. God is the one who will overturn. God is the one who will expose. God is the one who will silence. And as you read this psalm, your enemies will not understand why their plans fail, why their strength weakens, why their strategies fall apart, why their confidence collapses, why the unity they once had dissolves in front of them. They will not know that while they were plotting, you were reading. They will not know that while they were planning, you were activating. They will not know that while they were whispering, heaven was responding. Because your obedience in these 3 days becomes their confusion, and your alignment becomes their downfall. There is power in this assignment, not because of the length of the psalm, but because of the authority behind the one who commanded it. When God says read, he is not giving you information, he is giving you ammunition. When God says read, he is not giving you a suggestion. He is giving you a strategy. When God says read, he is not giving you a ritual. He is giving you a realm of victory you could not have accessed by strength alone. And as you enter these 3 days, know that heaven is awakening on your behalf. Angels are being dispatched. Spiritual barriers are being removed. Generational cycles are being broken. Hidden enemies are being revealed, and divine order is being restored. You are not stepping into a random moment. You are stepping into a supernatural assignment ordained to shift the trajectory of your life, because God has declared that your enemies will not prevail. Your enemies will not triumph. Your enemies will not succeed. Your enemies will not have the final word. And your enemies will not understand how everything they plan suddenly collapses in front of them. Obedience to divine instructions activates supernatural confusion in the enemy's camp, because when you align your actions with what God has spoken, you step out of the natural realm and into the dimension where heaven responds instantly to your movement, where your simple act of obedience becomes the trigger that releases divine intervention, where God begins to orchestrate circumstances in ways you cannot see or anticipate. When you obey, you give God permission to invade the battlefield on your behalf, to interrupt the cycles that have been operating against you, to dismantle the spiritual structures built by those who oppose you, to break the consistency of the enemy's plans. There are forces that have studied you, watched you, tracked your progress, and calculated your patterns. But the moment you obey God, you become unpredictable to them, because they cannot decipher spiritual obedience. Obedience blinds the enemy. Obedience throws off their strategies. Obedience disrupts their momentum. Obedience sends shockwaves into the spiritual atmosphere, causing the very people who once agreed against you to lose unity, lose clarity, lose confidence, lose their hold on the assignment they were trying to carry out against your life. When God sees obedience, he releases confusion, and that confusion becomes divine interference that blocks the enemy from carrying out what they intended. They begin to question each other, doubt their motives, argue among themselves, turn on each other, and retreat without understanding why their plans are failing. They will believe something changed in you, but what truly changed was the realm you stepped into when you obeyed. Obedience opens doors for angels to step in, for warfare to shift in your favor, for battles to be won without you lifting your hands, for situations to unravel without you speaking a word. When you follow God's instruction, you tie the hands of the enemy and loosen the hands of heaven. You turn your life into a battlefield where God fights and you witness. You activate a divine protocol where the enemy becomes confused, disoriented, dismantled, and defeated, because obedience is not weakness. Obedience is spiritual warfare executed with divine intelligence. And every time you obey, heaven advances on your behalf. and the enemy loses ground, loses authority, loses access, and loses the power they thought they had over your life. Your spiritual alignment creates breakthroughs that human efforts could never produce, because when your spirit, your mind, your decisions, and your actions come into agreement with what God has declared over your life, you step into a realm where impossibility dissolves and limitations lose their authority. Alignment is not about perfection. It is about positioning. It is about positioning. It is about aligning yourself with the frequency of heaven, the rhythm of divine purpose, the direction of the Holy Spirit. There are seasons where you have pushed, worked, planned, strategized, calculated, and still felt stuck, still felt blocked, still felt resisted, because breakthrough is not always produced by effort. Sometimes breakthrough is produced by alignment. When you align spiritually, the atmosphere around you shifts. Your thoughts become clearer. Your decisions become sharper. Your discernment becomes stronger. The confusion that once clouded your path begins to lift, because alignment brings clarity. Alignment brings order. Alignment brings momentum. It connects you to divine timing and disconnects you from cycles of delay that were draining your strength. When you align spiritually, you no longer fight battles that are not yours. You no longer carry weights that were not assigned to you. You no longer entertain voices meant to distract you from destiny. Alignment silences noise. Alignment exposes deception. Alignment reveals what the enemy tried to keep hidden from you. And as you align, heaven begins to respond. Doors that refuse to open now recognize your authority. People assigned to your next level begin to appear. Resources that were delayed begin to flow. Opportunities that were blocked begin to unlock, because alignment places you in the exact position where divine provision meets divine purpose. There are breakthroughs waiting for alignment. Breakthroughs that do not come through force, but through surrender. Breakthroughs that do not come through striving, but through spiritual positioning. When you align with God, you stop functioning from human limitation and begin functioning from divine empowerment. You tap into a grace that carries you where strength could not. You tap into wisdom that reveals what intellect could not. You tap into favor that opens doors your resume never could. And as this alignment deepens, the unseen realm begins to shift in your favor. Battles you didn't know were being fought on your behalf began to tip toward victory. Chains you didn't know existed began to break. Resistance you didn't understand begins to crumble. Because alignment gives heaven permission to intervene in ways that surpass your understanding. When your spirit is aligned, your steps become ordered. Your path becomes illuminated. Your progress becomes accelerated. Suddenly, what was taking years starts happening in months. What was stuck starts moving. What was silent starts speaking. What was closed starts opening. Alignment is the key that unlocks what effort could not touch. Alignment is the access point to breakthroughs that defy logic, breakthroughs that rewrite your story, breakthroughs that silence your enemies, breakthroughs that manifest not because you pushed harder, but because you positioned yourself correctly in the presence of God. When God fights for you, every adversary becomes powerless, and every plan against you fails, because the moment God steps onto the battlefield, the battle stops belonging to human strength and becomes governed by divine authority. There is no enemy, no force, no agenda, no weapon, no scheme that can withstand the weight of God's intervention. When God rises on your behalf, he does not negotiate with darkness. He does not request permission from your enemies. He does not wait for circumstances to align. He overrides everything that was positioned to stop you. Every voice that spoke against you becomes silent. Every hand that moved against you becomes weak. Every obstacle that stood before you collapses under his power. The enemies who felt confident suddenly lose direction, lose unity, lose courage, because no one stands steady when God begins to move. Battles you once felt overwhelmed by become small in his presence. Because when God fights, he shifts the atmosphere. He interrupts the strategy. He confuses the coordination of those who oppose you. He breaks the connections formed in darkness. He dismantles the traps silently built around your life. When God fights for you, the victory is not only guaranteed, it is prophetic, it is strategic, it is complete. You do not win halfway, you win thoroughly. You win in ways that become undeniable testimonies of divine involvement. You win in ways that expose the intentions of your enemies. You win in ways that make it clear that no human effort could have produced such results. When God fights for you, he goes ahead of you, stands beside you, surrounds you, and shields you from attacks you never saw coming. He blocks what was meant to break you. He redirects what was meant to distract you. He dismantles what was meant to delay you. And while your enemies are plotting, God is already overturning their plans. When God fights for you, the opposition around you becomes irrelevant because they cannot touch what God has protected. They cannot access what God has sealed. They cannot destroy what God has ordained. Even if they gather, they scatter. Even if they rise, they fall. Even if they plan, their plans collapse before they reach you. They may attempt, but they cannot succeed. They may launch, but they cannot penetrate. They may speak, but their words lose power the moment heaven intervenes. God turns their confidence into confusion, their aggression into weakness, their weapons into fragments that never reach their target. When God fights for you, the entire spiritual realm shifts. Angels move into position. Barriers break apart. Heavy burdens lift off your shoulders. And what once felt impossible becomes effortless because the strength carrying you is not your own. When God fights for you, you advance without fear. You rise without hesitation. You walk through doors that were once sealed shut, and you become untouchable to anything designed to undermine your destiny. Victory stops being an outcome and becomes an identity. You don't just win battles, you walk in the assurance that no matter what comes against you, God will always step in, always defend, always shield, always dismantle, and always bring you through with evidence that his hand was upon your life. There are moments in your life when God elevates you not by lifting you higher, but by removing the weight of what has been holding you down. And in that elevation, you begin to see clearly that every delay, every setback, every betrayal, every disappointment was positioning you for a realm of victory that the enemy never wanted you to reach. Breakthrough is not always loud. Sometimes it is a subtle shift in the atmosphere where God begins to rearrange the pieces of your life without warning, without announcement, without explanation. And when those pieces begin to align, the enemy becomes restless because he sees what you cannot see yet. When God elevates you, he does it in a way that confuses every adversary who believed they had calculated your next move, every enemy who assumed they understood your patterns, every person who thought they could predict your future based on your past. But God is not limited by your past. God is not intimidated by your obstacles. God is not threatened by the enemies assigned to your life. He moves with precision, purpose, and intention. And when he begins to elevate you, nothing in hell can sabotage what heaven has already authorized. Elevation begins inside you before it manifests around you. It begins in the renewal of your mind, in the strengthening of your spirit, in the awakening of your discernment, in the sharpening of your identity. There is a version of you that the enemy fears, the version of you that knows who you are, the version of you that recognizes your authority, the version of you that refuses to bow to fear, that the version of you that stops apologizing for your calling, your anointing, your assignment, your destiny. And as God elevates you internally, he prepares you to carry what you prayed for, builds the capacity for what is coming, stretches your understanding, expands your resilience, and develops the spiritual stamina needed to move into realms that require maturity, focus, and divine alignment. There are blessings that require a stronger version of you. There are opportunities that require a wiser version of you. There are breakthroughs that require a more disciplined version of you. And God elevates you by transforming you into the person capable of holding the very things he plans to release. The enemy hoped you would collapse under pressure, not realizing that pressure is the very thing that produces strength in you, clarity in you, resilience in you. Pressure reveals what you carry. Pressure exposes what was buried. Pressure awakens what was dormant. And every season of pressure was shaping you for elevation. Elevation also exposes what cannot go with you. God will begin to disconnect you from people who weaken you, environments that limit you, conversations that drain you, habits that diminish you, thoughts that imprison you. Elevation requires separation. Separation is not rejection. Separation is preservation. God removes what you outgrew. God detaches you from what was hindering your growth. God distances you from those who were sabotaging your peace. Because elevation demands that you travel light, free from dead weight, free from emotional clutter, free from spiritual interference, free from relationships that were never meant to survive your next level. Even if the separation hurts, even if the disconnection feels confusing, even if the transition feels lonely, God is refining your circle to match the magnitude of your calling. And while elevation is happening internally and spiritually, God begins to shift things externally. Opportunities you thought were lost begin to reappear. Relationships you needed begin to form. Favor that was withheld begins to flow. Doors that were locked begin to open. Not because you fought harder, but because you aligned better. Not because you forced anything, but because God ordained everything. When God elevates you, he puts your name in the right rooms. He positions your gifts before the right eyes. He places your voice in the right atmosphere. He aligns your purpose with the right timing. And the same people who overlooked you will witness your rise. The same people who doubted you will see your emergence. The same people who spoke against you will watch God establish you in a place where their words hold no power. Elevation comes with visibility, and visibility comes with warfare. The enemy attacks what he fears. He resists what he cannot stop. He opposes what he cannot control. And his attacks are often a sign that elevation is already in motion. The closer you get to breakthrough, the more intense the opposition becomes. But even in the midst of warfare, God is elevating you. He is training your hands to war and your fingers to fight spiritually, not with anger or retaliation, but with wisdom, discernment, obedience, and prayer. The enemy's attacks become lessons. His resistance becomes fuel. His strategies become stepping stones. And every attempt to destroy you becomes evidence that something powerful is unfolding in your life. Elevation also requires trust. God will move you into places you feel unprepared for because he wants you to rely on his strength, not your own. He will lead you into opportunities that stretch you because growth requires discomfort. He will push you into seasons where faith becomes your only strategy because he is teaching you how to walk in power without fear. Elevation is not about pride or status. It is about purpose. It is not about being seen. It is about being positioned. It is not about rising above others. It is about rising into what God created you to be. And the higher God elevates you, the more he refines you, shapes you, molds you, and prepares you for the responsibility of influence, the weight of destiny, the authority of purpose. Elevation also exposes your enemies. When God lifts you, motives become clear. True intentions rise to the surface. Hearts are revealed. People who pretended to support you become uncomfortable with your growth. People who celebrated your struggles become silent during your victories. People who once walked with you step back because they cannot handle your elevation. But their exit is protection. Their distance is deliverance. Their silence is confirmation that God is removing every voice that was not assigned to speak into the next chapter of your life. God is not elevating you to impress people. He is elevating you to fulfill his plan. Elevation is not only about rising, it is about stabilizing. God is anchoring you in a deeper identity, grounding you in unshakable faith, establishing you in a strength that cannot be broken by external circumstances. He is building a foundation within you that is stronger than the attacks around you. He is developing a resilience that outlasts the storms. He is cultivating a confidence rooted not in ego, but in divine calling. Because true elevation is not fragile. It does not crumble under criticism. It does not break under pressure. It does not shrink under intimidation. It stands firm because it is established by God. Elevation is also a sign that the season of being hidden is ending. Your gifts were developed in the shadows. Your character was strengthened in obscurity. Your faith was built in silence. But elevation is the moment God says, now you are ready, ready to walk in the authority assigned to you, ready to carry what you prayed for, ready to confront the destiny that has been waiting for your arrival. And when God elevates you, he does it in such a way that no one can deny his hand in your life. The shift becomes undeniable. The transformation becomes visible. The favor becomes evident. The progress becomes unstoppable, because once God elevates you, no enemy can pull you down. No opposition can block your momentum. No force can reverse what heaven has released.